The men in Black Hollow kept laughing as the dust settled around. The thin cowboy standing alone, near the split-rail fence, his shoulders slightly hunched, had pulled low as if he were ashamed to meet their eyes, and none of them noticed the way his fingers briefly brushed the small braided cord. Hidden beneath his shirt, a cord older than the town, older than the saloon behind them, older even than the land deeds they waved like weapons, because to them he was just Elias Crow, the weak one, the quiet ranch hand who spoke softly, worked slowly and never raised his voice, the kind of man bullies circled like wolves. Yet beneath that silence lived a promise sworn under a blood-red moon, many winters ago, a promise sealed not with words but with scars and songs whispered in the Apache tongue. And as Sheriff Dalton spat in the dirt and ordered his deputies to teach the coward a lesson, Elias lifted his eyes for the first time, and something in them shifted, not fear but patience, the kind learned by men who wait through storms and ambushes, the kind taught by warriors who know that timing is sharper than any blade. And when the first punch came, it landed hard, knocking him to his knees, the crowd roaring with cruel delight, not knowing each blow was being counted not in pain, but in heartbeats. Heartbeats traveling across the canyon, carried by the wind that bent the grass and stirred the ravens from the rocks. The same ravens that had once circled above a hidden Apache camp where a half-dead white boy had been carried in on a rawhide stretcher, bleeding, broken, left for dead by outlaws years before, only to be saved by 77 warriors who saw not his skin, but his spirit, who fed him when he could not eat, taught him when he could not stand, and named him Ashkita, the quiet flame, because fire does not always roar, sometimes it waits. And as Elias was dragged through the mud now, memories burned brighter than the pain, memories of old Chief Nantan standing tall despite his years, saying in a voice like thunder softened, by wisdom that brotherhood, chosen is stronger than blood given, that a life spared creates a debt deeper than gold, and that one day the quiet flame would call, and they would answer, no matter the distance, no matter the cost. And the second punch split Elias's lip, blood streaking down his chin as the crowd jeered, unaware that blood had already been given long ago, cut deliberately across his palm in a sacred circle where 77 Apache warriors had pressed their hands to his and sworn him kin. And when Deputy Miller raised his boot to crush Elias's ribs, the cowboy whispered a single word so soft it vanished into the wind, a word no one else understood, a word that was not a plea but a signal. And far beyond Black Hollow, hidden riders stirred, horses stamping, men rising from stillness like shadows peeling away from stone. And back in town, the saloon piano faltered as if the air itself had grown heavy, laughter thinning into uneasy murmurs because something had changed, the sky dimming though the sun still hung high. And Sheriff Dalton felt it too, that crawling unease along his spine. But pride pushed him forward as he grabbed Elias by the collar and snarled about land, about law, about how weak men don't survive the frontier. And Elias smiled then, a small broken smile that confused them all, because it wasn't defiance, it was certainty, the certainty of a man who knows he is not alone. And when Dalton struck him with the rifle butt, Elias fell flat on his back, staring up at the sky where clouds drifted like slow-moving spirits, counting again, not heartbeats now, but memories. 77 faces, 77 voices, 77 promises. And one by one the sounds of Black Hollow began to fade beneath a deeper rhythm, the distant thunder of hooves still miles away, but felt in the bones of the land, the same land the townsmen claimed to own. Never understanding it listens, remembers and chooses sides. And as the deputies argued about whether to finish him or throw him in a cell, a young boy at the edge of the crowd tugged his mother's sleeve and whispered that the ground was shaking, laughed at and ignored like all truth spoken too early. And Elias closed his eyes not in defeat but in respect, silently thanking the ancestors, thanking the warriors riding hard through dust and destiny, knowing that when he opened them again, the world of Black Hollow would never be the same. because the weak cowboy they mocked was about to remind them of an old lesson written in blood and honor, that strength is not measured by how loud a man shouts or how many guns he carries, but by who will come when he calls. And if this story already has your heart pounding and your imagination racing, remember to subscribe to the channel, because stories like this, stories of hidden brotherhood, forgotten oaths, and unstoppable justice are just beginning. And what comes next will shake the frontier to its core. The first scream didn't come from Elias, it came from the horses, a deep rolling cry, carried on thunder as the earth itself seemed to split open beyond the ridge, and every head in Black Hollow turned just as the horizon darkened with movement. Not bandits, not an army in uniform, but something older, heavier, inevitable. 77 Apache warriors riding in perfect silence, their feathers and braids cutting the wind, faces painted with the calm of men who had already accepted death long ago, and fear finally bloomed where arrogance once lived. The deputies fumbling with rifles, hands shaking, the sheriff backing away slowly, as if distance alone could undo years of cruelty. And Elias rose to his knees in the dust, bloodied but steady, eyes locked on the riders as they fanned out like a living storm, surrounding the town without a single shouted order, because they did not need noise to command obedience. They carried it in their presence, and when Chief Nantan dismounted, time itself seemed to pause, his boots touching the ground with ceremony, his gaze moving first to Elias, then to the men who had hurt him. And in that look was not rage but judgment, the kind no man can escape. And he spoke in English slowly, so all could understand, saying the land remembers every footprint, every broken promise, every stolen breath. And today it demanded balance. And Sheriff Dalton tried to speak of law, of ownership, of papers signed by men long dead. But the chief held up a hand, and the sound died in Dalton's throat, because 77 arrows were already drawn, aimed not in hatred but warning. And Elias finally stood fully then, removing his hat, revealing the old Apache braid woven into his hair. The crowd gasping as understanding struck too late. The weak cowboy was kin, brother, quiet flame, and when Elias spoke, his voice carried across the town clear and calm, saying he wanted no blood unless it was forced, saying he had lived among them in peace and asked only the same, but cruelty had chosen its path. And the choice now belonged to Black Hollow, and one by one the deputies lowered their guns, the bravado draining away, the sheriff falling to his knees as the truth crushed him. Heavier than any fist ever had Elias, and the Apache warriors did not cheer, did not celebrate. They simply waited, because justice does not rush. And when Dalton surrendered the stolen land deeds, placing them in the dirt, Chief Nantan nodded once, balance restored without a single arrow loosed. And as the warriors mounted and vanished, back into the horizon like a dream the town would spend generations whispering about, Elias remained behind, not as a conqueror, but as a reminder, helping the fallen sheriff to his feet, proving that mercy can be stronger than fear. And from that day forward, no one in Black Hollow ever mocked silence again, because they had learned the quietest man may carry the loudest army behind him. And if this ending gave you chills and reminded you why stories of honor, brotherhood, and hidden strength still matter, make sure you subscribe to the channel, because more powerful tales like this are coming, and the next one may be even more unforgettable.